Hello, all right. We're covering chapter 20 today. This one, pretty excited, maybe because I reread these so close to each other, but I think I found a few cool connections, so I'm happy to share those with you. So once again, this is a chapter. I don't call them medium dives. I don't call them deep dives. I call them medium dives. So this is a medium dive in the chapter 20. Found a few things that relate back to the previous chapter and relate earlier on in the book. No massive super secret clues here in this one. All right, so here we go. So first thing we're looking for is from the last chapter. We're looking for to illustrate what can be gained with new perspectives. I'll share with you two examples from my time putting our treasure together. All right, so we're looking for the two examples that JCB has changed his perspective on, okay? And I mistakenly thought that they were over the next two chapters. Turns out they're both in the next chapter. So that's cool. And why we're doing this is because perspective has been drilled into us, changing perspective, what comes about from viewing things in a different perspective all throughout the book. It's one of the big themes here. It's really put into effect with the overview effect in the last chapter, and now we're going to see how it kind of plays out. All right, so look at the title, the six-figure birthstone. That comes into play later. There's some interesting things in this chapter. This chapter brings about almost everything I would say from the first six chapters that we're looking for. When we were looking for details, we're looking for colors, we're looking for stories, and we're looking for pictures that don't fit, and we're looking for mirror images. Like all five of those, I think, are in this chapter, which makes it a little frustrating if we're only looking for like 2 to 3 clues per chapter, but I'll get into it and reveal them, and you guys can do whatever you want with them. All right, so we're looking for the two things, and we're also looking for what the six-figure birthstone is. We look here on the first page, massive, brilliant picture of, let's say, a 200-carat smoky quartz cut. It's arguably one of the most radiant items in the treasure, but this is not the six-figure birthstone that he's talking about, all right? So, interestingly enough, this is one of the instances where the prominent photo on the title page is not related to the title. All right, moving on. And this is where on page 174, where is it at? Magic. Well, it looks like, let me pause it real quick. All right, I found it. Bottom of page 174, a fresh realization feels a bit like magic. And this is from the paragraph that starts, in a way, it all felt like a reprieve. All right, the experience of finding a new perspective. So here's why I'm excited about this, okay? A fresh realization feels a bit like magic. What else feels a bit like magic? Well, if we look into our last chapter, we know these two chapters are connected. I'm happy that it's 2 chapters, not 3 chapters connected, because I haven't seen 3 that are connected, but having 2 that are connected fits with our whole pattern of the other 2s. But we look at the single quote, not double quote, at the top of page 166 by Arthur C. Clarke, and he lists the first rule of the first law. And so we look at the other 3 laws, and the last law is any technology, I'm going to butcher it, this is a paraphrase, any technology significantly advanced is the same as magic, all right? So now we have a parrying a chapter, and we have 2 things that are like magic. One of them is a shift or change in perspective that requires an opening of the mind, and the other one is advanced technology, all right? So those are 2 things that are tied in. Pretty excited about that. While we're here on this page, let's look at this picture right here, which I'm not a huge art guy. I think this is pretty cool. I get it's illustrating the point about perspective, about how if you zoom in pretty close and you look at it framed the way it is, you know, it's a lady, right? It's the lips, the nose, eyes, eyebrow, and ear, or hair on the side. But, you know, from a wider perspective, it's just flowers and a moth, right? Normally, well, I don't know. Maybe it's supposed to be a butterfly, but to me it looks more like a moth. And I can see moth by mouth of flower, moth, seem close together. It just doesn't look very butterfly-ish to me. It looks more like a moth. Do moths like butterfly? Do moths like flowers? I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that. But interestingly enough, about pictures that don't fit in, so let's see, we have a little description for here, and it says this famous work is titled Mouth of the Flower by Octavio Ocampo. Ocampo creates an exercise in shifting perspective. This piece is not in our treasure. This piece is also not mentioned at all in the chapter. How many times in this book is there a picture that's not mentioned at all in the chapter? All right, so definitely something there. Then we keep going on as far as we look for details. I didn't know garnets came in green, so that's something new I learned for myself. Now we get to the actual point of the story, which is, or the title, the six-figure garnet, six-figure birthstone, right? So this is a garnet, a green one. I'm used to garnets being red, didn't know they were green. The story there is pretty cool. A lot of people have had a whole theory about the bull and what it ties into. I'm not the expert on the Fen chase and how the bull is the same bull, so I'm going to leave that alone for now. But I do want to look at the next page, 178, this little story about the flower. All right, so very interesting. I mean, to me, it would have made more sense to put a picture of a rose on this page, or if we could find a rose, or even the Ocampo story picture over here. But, oh, and again, so this picture of this dude launching off into space. So I'm guessing it's the from the story where the guy jumps into the side and he's jumping away from the bull. But why would they be on two different pages, right? Is this another thing where it's just the formatting, right? It didn't work out. Is this because of the missing page 90? They're supposed to be together. Don't know. Don't know why this picture is on this page when there's really nothing to do with it, right? Because it's on 177, but the whole story about the guy jumping in is on the previous page. So interesting. You know, this chapter is one of the chapters where there's a lot you can dive into. Matter of fact, there's so much it's hard to pick the important points from there. But let's go back to 178 with the rose. So in the middle of all these stories, right, about his childhood, about the garnet, about changing perspective, you know, introducing pictures that have nothing to do with the chapter. I mean, okay, it has something to do with the chapter. I get it, perspective, right? But there's nothing in the text that even points to the picture. Here we go on another tangent about the flower, right? And it uses a rose, specific with a rose, right? He could have used any flower. He could have used a flower that's, you know, does it say what kind of flower this is over here? It doesn't. I don't think it's a rose, though. But he uses rose because this is a made-up story that he could choose. Maybe because roses come in so many varieties, like he says, colors, smells, foliage sizes. And then, you know, you're walking through, the rose speaks to you. But from that rose's perspective, all flowers are bad, but you have to get up from a higher view. So, I mean, analyzing this little story, I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's, you know, talking about the human condition, right? You know, maybe you had bad experience with humans, but if you look at it from a whole, they're all not so bad. JCB seems like more of an optimist guy. Speaking of JCB and what we learned from him, this chapter, there's so many things in this chapter. I'm really excited about this. I hope I get some good discussion on this. I know I've done like 3 nights in a row on the Discords, but I might do a 4th one. But here we go. This is 175, top 175. And this part I think is, if you could take one thing from this video, I think this is the thing to take, right? The truth was, I was afraid these items might make me seem boring to you. All right, and that right there is the crux of everything, right? That right there is just so vital. Look at everything he's done, right? Even the most recent thing where he's offering to mail you a free dust cover if yours got damaged. All right, and some people are saying, well, that's because the dust cover is crucial to the lion's share, which it may be. Or it could be just out of the goodness of his heart. Either way, I mean, you don't have to do that. How many times has a product manager or a product owner taken responsibility for the shipper's mistreatment of the package, right? I work in logistics. I work in shipping. I've done it for, I don't know, 6-7 years now. Most of the time, it's always on the shipper, right? If something is damaged, very few instances where you see the, you know, the product owner or the person who wrote the book come in and say, I mean, not even the distributor, right? So many hands have touched this, the distributor and then the, you know, the shipper. And JCB is saying, you know, hey, no cost to you. Send me the address. We'll send you the free dust cover. I'm curious if anybody watching this has had that happen and has taken them up on that offer. I'd like to hear how that whole experience went. But I think that's very important with how he interacts with the media, how he interacts with the fans, with the searchers. Look, I mean, he's very, I don't know if self-conscious is the word, image conscious might be, but he cares how he comes across, right? He cares how he appeals, and that could be just good branding and good marketing, right? If you want to be a little cynical. Let's read that again. The truth was, I was afraid these items might make me seem boring to you, right? Boring to us, right? Because of how it comes back. So again, I always think about, if you watched my last video, I'm always thinking about how the press conference is going to go, what JCB's statements are going to be, what the interviews are going to be like when a box is found, and how it's going to come across, and how the solves are. And I think this is really important to get this. The truth, I'm going to read it for the third time. The truth was, I was afraid these items might make me seem boring to you. And me and you is even italicized, all right? That's pretty big. I think there's a lot to dive into there. There's a lot you can gain from that sentence right there. But this is going to be a short chapter, mainly because there's so much more that I want to dive into for my own personal research. See if I can share some of it later, but I think this chapter helped me out with putting some other stuff together. So, short one, and that's okay, because I do some long ones. This will be a short one, but to recap everything from this one chapter, Arthur C. Clarke's 3 laws, right? The first one and the third one are now mentioned, so now we just have to find the second one, where that law is. Definitely a tie-in. Magic or really advanced technology. I'm not sure how advanced technology would fit into a boots-on-the-ground location, but we have a few things that pointing to it. We have a photo that is not mentioned at all in the text. That's pretty important. And how that's going to relate to a boots-on-the-ground location, not sure. We've got colors. We've got green. We've got red. Blue is not mentioned to my knowledge in this book, in this chapter. But let's look at all the things in the past I've said that you do with greens and reds. We have a revelation about his own psychology, or at least how he wants to come across. We have, and then we have the story of the rose and the perspective, right? Kind of, a rose field. Maybe look for a place where wild roses grow. I'm getting ahead of myself there with that one. Again, I don't want to think about boots on the ground location until I've read all the chapters and then try to put something together. But pretty excited for this chapter overall. Let me just go through, make sure there was nothing I missed. Yeah, pretty excited about that chapter. Looking for the next one. The guy in the bull. That was the last thing I wanted to say, was that they're on different pages. The guy that's jumping off, I mean, is he leading towards something? Is he pointing toward a place on the book? He looks like he's jumping toward the story about the rose. Is there a reason why he's not on the same page? Again, the most prominent photo. There's just so much going on in this chapter right here. I would never have expected. Even from like choosing a new perspective, the word choosing is really hard to read in italics. It looks like a few other words, right? That's just very interesting to me. All right, so that's it. I'll let you guys run with that. Just see what you think. All right, bye.